Hello once again. Welcome to Hot Cocoa and Books. I need to tell you something very interesting. January is usually my least favorite month, and I hibernate. I don't like to go anywhere in January. This is so true. When I did my workout group that I was a part of, I was like, see you in mid-February. Like December and January, I was like, I don't like the cold. It's really cold right now. And the snow keeps falling and falling and falling. So I keep reading and reading and reading. That's pretty much what I do in my spare time. So therefore, I've read a lot of books in January so far. I am 19 days in January and I've already read like 17 books. And I think I'm going to finish another one today already. So it's pretty crazy. But a lot of the books that I've been reading, I have been able to read in one sitting because they're short. So that is a part of why. And I'm going to talk about a variety today. And I even have a 5-star read. Again, this is just incredible. Tackling those books that are on my to-read list for this year, I have been having a great time. It's nice to be able to say, you know what, I want to read these books and to go, these books are great. But there is a dud that I get once in a while. Thankfully, I haven't DNF'd any books yet this year, but there were ones that I could have, but I didn't because they were on my list. And I was like, well, let's continue on. Let's start with one that was average for me, which was A Better Life. I thought it was going to be something very different. I thought it was going to be about slow living, about maybe minimalism or something like that. But instead it was about a woman who wanted to be a missionary with her husband. She talks about how she met her husband, what that was like for her to be able to have their relationship develop. And then they decide they want to be missionaries in another country, but instead they find themselves in an area near Chicago that has a lot of Yemeni people there. As she starts sewing these bags, she makes a business called Better Life Bags. And one of the people that helps her with these is a woman that she met one time and didn't have any conversation. They just sewed together. But 3 years pass and they get together again. But now the woman can speak English and they sew and they form a bond as she just runs this business for many years. So this book is about what that business was like, what her expectations were, and what people's expectations were of her, how she was able to find that the women that she worked with were able to sustain their families in a way that they weren't able to originally. So she made an impact and she didn't realize that she would have done that with just sewing. So it was very touching. And in my last vlog, I did bring up 84 Charing Cross Road. This has been one that I just see everywhere, people talking about it. Even this week, I saw someone talking about it. I was like, ooh, I just read that. I read this in an hour. This is only 97 pages long. They are letters between a woman that lives in New York City. It starts in 1949. She is someone that writes screenplay type of things for a TV show. She writes books. At this point, she hadn't really written anything other than the screenplays. She starts talking to this bookshop in England that has these amazing editions where it's leather bound and it's beautiful and they're old books and she just loves them. So she keeps ordering them and she has a correspondence for 20 whole years with a certain man named Frank. So her name is Helene. She corresponds with Frank and then people that work with Frank and also his wife and also his neighbor, also his daughter. There's so many people that she starts to interact with and she brings gifts to them. She's very kind. Sometimes though, reading these letters, she's like very demanding. She's like, what are you doing all day? Go find me this book. Because she's like, I ordered this book from you ages ago. Go get it. Like things like that. And she's pretty funny. But I think that Frank enjoyed her humor. And it is mentioned by his wife that they had a similar humor together. So it is a touching book. Shows a little bit about what life was like in England after World War II, which I didn't know they were still on rations there. So that was pretty unique to find out some of the culture from both the US and England. And they kept saying like, oh, come visit us, come visit us. It was pretty charming. I thought it would have been nice if there were a lot more letters because you could tell that there were some that were kept back from the book. I'm someone that writes pen pals. I love letter writing with a passion. So I love this back and forth. It was fun. I feel like we didn't get too much of what their lives were like, and I would have liked a little bit more of that. So while it was good, I wasn't blown away by it. I'm going to talk a little bit about some middle grade books. Start with The Light Jar. This was a very depressing book. I'm going to put that right off the bat. This is about domestic abuse, but there's no actual physical abuse. It's all verbal and manipulation and threats, and it's very weird. So this boy, he's growing up under his mother's care. His parents are divorced and his mother is living with this man who is not nice. He does things that are just very strange. They escape and they go to this little cottage from a home that his grandmother had known about at one point and that his mom stayed at for a little bit in her past. And he had been there once when he was very tiny as well. There's a large house that is attached to it on the plot of land. So he starts to see this young girl that lives in the big house and she's like, hey, I want to find this treasure. And she's got these notes. When he's trying to be in the cottage, he sees an imaginary friend that he had when he was really little. So it becomes a little bit strange at times. The whole story was just depressing, but it does have a good ending and it's very sweet. But it was hard for me to read this at times because I was just like, wow, this is so sad. And there are things that I don't want to say happen, but it was like, wow, I can't believe that. And then you go, oh, the light jar, what specifically it is, it has to do with he's afraid of the dark. And so his mom made him this little jar with lights that were in it to try to help him at night. That's all I'll say about that. Astrid the Unstoppable. I will say Lunacha, she is from Norway. This is a Norwegian book. And she says it's not called Astrid the Unstoppable. This book is called Tonje Glimmerdal. I'm going to just say it's Tonje Glimmerdal throughout the whole thing. Tonje is really Astrid, but it's not the same name. I don't know why they changed it. So anyway, she is a 9-year-old girl. She causes so much trouble. She definitely reminds me of Pippi Longstocking, but maybe not as problematic. She is known as the only girl in town, the only child in town. She lives in the mountains in Norway. There are wellness centers. It's mainly a ski area where people go to visit. She lives close to a nearby town where lots of children live. So she has some friends, but her best friend is actually her godfather, an old man. She spends a lot of time with him. She has this guy that she doesn't get along with that runs a wellness center. He doesn't like that she is so loud. They're not nice to each other. They're very rude to one another. It took me back a little bit when I was reading this, like, wow, I don't really like this attitude. But as the story goes on, it does get a bit better where we find out the background story of her godfather, and some of it is just very sad. And then there's this other character that comes into play that knows this man. And now her parents, her mother is an environmental scientist of some sort. She is working in Greenland, and her father works really hard at home. They have animals. There are lots of animals in this, but there is a person that shoots birds that are seagulls and shoots a dog. So I need to let you know that there is some animal death that is like violent. She does have her own pet seagull. What I love is that Tonje, she touches the hearts of the people around her and she makes an impact on those that are difficult. So there's like a nice happy ending. It's all wrapped up in a bow. This is a cute story except for the not so nice parts. Like I said, there's a lot of name calling in this, just so you know. This is the one that I really was looking so forward to reading this year, and it was a disappointment. The American Daughters. Look at this cover. She's got like a tray. There are hummingbirds. That is all significant. The American Daughters doesn't even get talked about until halfway through the book. This is a story about a woman with her mother, well, when she was still young, actually, a young girl. She is sold on the block in the 1800s, right before, or this really starts about a few years before the Civil War, when she is still young. So her mother is sold with her. So the two of them were sold to this one man in New Orleans. And while there's a lot of bad stuff that happens. I mean, you understand how the people were treated that were slaves. Thankfully, there is no description. There is just talk. We know that women and children get raped, but there is nothing detailed, which I appreciate. There's nothing detailed. However, near the end, there is suddenly like new stuff that happens that it makes no sense for the rest of the story. There are little bits and pieces throughout this book as if this is a story that had been found and people are researching it and trying to figure it out. The whole thing, it just doesn't flow well. It doesn't mix well. I didn't enjoy it. I felt it was flat. The very first part of the story, it was very enjoyable. I loved learning about her mother, especially. Then the second half, there is a little bit talk about the possibility that there were women spies that were slaves to try to tell the North about what was going on so they can find soldiers and stuff. I hope that something like that maybe is a bit true. I don't know historically if that is accurate, but it was an interesting situation. I mean, it's fiction, historical fiction. So that's what the American Daughters, that's what they call themselves. The main character, she starts to get to know these people. There are some things in here which, as someone that has read lots of books about actual accounts from that time of those who had been slaves, it just doesn't seem very accurate to me in a way. Some of it does, some of it doesn't. There is language in this, including racial slurs. The second half of of this book was just terrible. To Love a Beast. This was really cute. It's a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, and there are definite ties to the Disney version that they do little hints for, such as like the guy that is Gaston, which his name is not Gaston in this, but they talk about his antlers that he likes to display and things like that. It's just every once in a while you hear a little thing from it and you go, oh, that's kind of cute. This is Christian, and it's about a woman named Callista. She's a bookbinder, so she rebinds books in different forms, and she has a boss that wants his stuff to be rebound, and that person is the Beast. His name is Everett, and Everett has a backstory that I really enjoyed, because when you hear the stories of Beauty and the Beast, they always make it seem like he's a heartless person, but this one does not, and his story is just very sad, and to hear what happened to him to make him beastly was just very tragic and upsetting. So Callista, she looks beyond his beastliness and finds his heart and sees that he is a gentle person and he is very wonderful to work with, and she is sad that so many people had warned her about going to visit him, and she forms bonds and friendships with the people that work for him. He is definitely a rich man. She is not very rich at all, so they form their bond. It is beautiful. You know the story of Beauty and the Beast. This was a cute story, cute retelling. It was nice. There is definitely some violence in this, but again, you know the story of Beauty and the Beast. And the last book that I want to talk about is my 5-star read. This was one of the most amazing theological books that I've read in a long, long time. This was so good. This one was picked out of the TBR jar by my husband, and it was one that I've never heard anyone talk about. Analyzes Holy Week. So that's the week leading up to the crucifixion and the resurrection of Christ, going through each day of the week, starting further than you usually hear about, going through the Bible from that time, the Gospels of Jesus's life, giving you background history on top of the scriptural history. It talks about how Jesus is a bearer of peace and not violence, and how he comes with a message that is so unlike what the people were expecting. And it tells how we are to be peaceful as well and not be into retaliation. It is beautiful because today is Martin Luther King Jr. Day as I do this, and this is totally why he had the message he had. And so many people praise Martin Luther King Jr., but they forget that Jesus had that same message, and they forget to live it instead. When they are attacked, they want to defend themselves. There are so many things I could say, but I don't want to give so much away. Some of it I had already known, because as a Mennonite, we are very into peacemaking and trying to see all people as image bearers of God, where we don't want to hurt anyone, no matter how horrible they might be. And Jesus was the same way, where no matter how horrible he was treated, he still loved and he still forgave, and he still allowed himself to be crucified because he knew that there was an impact in that. So this was amazing. I think if you're a Christian, if you want this book, tell me now. Let me know and I will send it to you. All right, that's all I'll talk about today. There are a couple other books that I finished. Until next time, thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Enjoy your day. Thank you. Bye.